Not great news for the WNBA.
One of the key players for the Indiana Fever is out.
Will Sophie Cunningham be in the season opener after drilling a half-court shot at practice?
Something just happened that could shake up the Indiana Fever's entire season. Sophie Cunningham's ankle injury looked minor.
But this right here, it did not look bad. Like, as far as like ankle rolls go, it's not that bad. It looks as minor as an ankle roll can be.
Until now. New updates reveal a deeper concern, and Caitlin Clark? She's not hiding her worry.
Sophie Cunningham did go down in the preseason game where the Fever played the Atlanta Dream with an ankle injury.
Not great situation with Sophie Cunningham being injured. It's going to be a big thing for the Fever if Sophie Cunningham can't play. She's the only person that can run the offense when Caitlin Clark's not on the floor.
If you're backing Caitlin through every twist and turn, drop 100% in the comments right now to show your support. Let's get into what really happened, because this changes everything.
Caitlin Clark takes the floor that maybe is different not only from any player in the WNBA, but from any player in basketball. The Indiana Fever are where they are because of Caitlin Clark. The WNBA is where it is because of Caitlin Clark. The Iowa situation is what it is because of Caitlin Clark.
When Sophie Cunningham first went down with that ankle injury during the Fever's preseason matchup against the Atlanta Dream, it looked like one of those unfortunate but manageable situations.
Not an ideal situation, not an ideal. She was down. She went down pretty hard, but she was trying to get back into the game.
She was helped off the court, yes, but soon after she was walking around with no boot, no limp, and full of energy. Even fans watching closely thought, no big deal.
Sophie Cunningham being one of the more important players to this team. If she doesn't play, it's going to be a tough one for the Fever.
In fact, not long after, she stepped onto the practice court and drilled a half-court shot, yelling, "I told you guys I'm ready to play." The crowd went wild.
And if you guys didn't hear from Sophie Cunningham's celebratory, screaming, she says, "I told you guys I'm ready to play." And apparently Scott Agnes was there. He is a reporter in Indianapolis. He posted on X saying that he heard Caitlin Clark say, "I think her ankle is fine."
And Caitlin Clark, standing nearby, even said confidently, "I think her ankle is fine." That should have been the end of the story, right? Wrong. Because despite all signs pointing to Sophie being ready, head coach Stephanie White stepped in with a very different tone.
She's shooting right behind you. What was Sophie able to do?
Put me on the sideline and talk. That's about all. I'm ready to play. Sit out over there and just talk the whole time. I'm going crazy. Yes, she's going crazy. Again, she just continues to be a day-to-day. She makes every 24 hours. She continues to make great progress. So we'll just, it's a long season. So we want to make sure that we're making the best long-term decisions when it comes to her health and wellness and her ability to produce for our team.
Stephanie White talking about it. Obviously, this is from Grant Young on Sports Illustrated. Preseason wasn't completely perfect because most would agree the most important part is making sure players stay healthy. Fever superstar Caitlin Clark's been dealing with tight quad, but soon after the injury occurred, Sophie Cunningham hobbled to the Fever's locker room, did not return to the game. I would assume she's going to be fine. I said it when I saw the injury. I'm like, it does not look that bad.
She wasn't smiling. She wasn't jumping up and down. In fact, she called Sophie's status day to day, saying they were taking it slow. And then she dropped the real bomb. "We don't want to set her back." Suddenly, fans realized something wasn't adding up. Here's a player visibly hyped, clearly desperate to be back on the floor.
Sophie Cunningham, man, she actually looks okay in this new video. Sophie Cunningham actually putting up some shots, bouncing on that ankle, walking around just fine. I like how she looks, man. We have, 3 more days? I think they play Saturday. So a couple more days, man, a few more days before she actually have to get on the court. I think she might be okay.
Hitting half-court shots at practice. Yet the coaching staff, they're treating her like she's one wrong move away from weeks or even months on the bench.
Sophie Cunningham went down with what did not look like the greatest injury. She went down, rolled her ankle after landing on Ryan Howard's.
It got weirder. Just before the Fever's big opener, the team officially ruled Sophie out. That's when questions exploded. Why tease her return? Why let her fire up the team and the fans, only to sideline her? Some fans are calling it strategic caution. Others think there's something they're not telling us. Could the ankle be worse than we thought? Are they hiding swelling, instability, or fear of re-aggravation?
This is BS. Not sure why overcautious team is not the soft. It's not about being soft. Hold the line. Sophie's so competitive. You got to protect her from herself. Her ankle isn't a problem for an uncontested shot. It's her defense. We've got to retest the ankle. Hate the risk setback where we don't have her for the Liberty game on the 24th. So it's very, very clear that Sophie Cunningham wants to play this game.
One thing is clear. This wasn't just a rolled ankle. It was a wake-up call. What looked like a brief setback might actually be a serious red flag for a team still trying to find its identity. And Caitlin Clark, who was counting on Sophie as a trusted backup, now faces even more pressure to carry the load. While all eyes have been on Sophie Cunningham's ankle, there's an even bigger story brewing beneath the surface.
They're competitive, and it felt a little bit different without Sophie out there, just because she brings so much energy and she's like this big bright light that comes in. So that felt a little bit different. But as far as like our attention to detail and our focus and our energy and competitiveness, no.
So that says it all, right? Right there. The energy, what she brings. It's different without her out there. And you can just feel those vibes coming from Sophie Cunningham, whether it's out on the court or around the team.
What her absence means for Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever's already fragile game plan. Make no mistake, Sophie wasn't just another name on the roster. She was a key component of the team's strategy, especially as a secondary ball handler and high-energy spark off the bench.
Sophie Cunningham has not really been practicing with the team. She's been showing up. She's been walking around, no boot, totally fine, not limping. But she did take part in today's practice, or at least today's half-court element of practice. So she is kind of like getting her workout on. Her defense is great. She can also spot up, and they're doing a motion offense. So they'll all be like moving around from position to position.
And now with her on the sidelines, the domino effect is real. And Caitlin Clark is feeling it. Let's break this down. From the start of preseason, it was clear that Sophie had carved out a unique role in this Fever lineup. In their first preseason game against the Mystics, she dropped 21 points, grabbed crucial rebounds, and lit up the floor with the kind of energy and leadership that's hard to teach. She played like she had something to prove, and honestly, she delivered. Her chemistry with Caitlin Clark wasn't just promising, it was electric. Sophie knew when to push the pace.
Hopefully, we can get her out on that court. Because like I said, man, do not underestimate the sky. That's a good sign. Hope she's able to go on Saturday. But her full recovery is the most important. Yeah, if she can't do it, you cannot underestimate these teams this year, man. They are loaded. Okay, they are loaded. Ankle sprain recovery can't be rushed. Their staff knows what to do. Yeah.
When to create space, and more importantly, she gave Caitlin room to breathe. Now imagine that gone. Caitlin Clark, as spectacular as she is still a rookie navigating the brutal transition from college to the WNBA. The plan was never to have her play 40 minutes a night while managing the offense alone. Sophie was supposed to help shoulder that load.
It's funny, today I got breakfast and like you said, someone said, "Good morning, Sophie." I didn't correct them, just kept moving on with my day. But, that's happened a lot, not only from people just in the city, but also our staff. It's just things that happen really quick, and especially on film, it's hard. So it's going to be a funny little bit throughout the season.
She was the relief valve, the floor general off the bench, the defensive enforcer who could mix it up when Clark needed a breather. But now, those minutes fall to players like Sydney Colson, who, let's be honest, hasn't looked comfortable running the point. In the non-Clark minutes during preseason, the Fever's offense looked disjointed.
In practice for the Indiana Fever, the team was shooting their half-court shots, as they do. And who makes it? Sophie Cunningham from half court. She says, "I told you guys I'm ready to play."
Flat, even panicked. And that's not just a chemistry issue. That's a Sophie Cunningham issue. Because without her leadership and versatility on the floor, everything falls heavier on Caitlin Clark's shoulders. And don't think Caitlin isn't aware of that. Behind the scenes, Clark has shown her concern. During the now viral half-court moment, when Sophie drained the shot and shouted she was ready to play,
she can shoot the ball. Obviously, she brings a level of energy, defensive intensity. She's pugnacious.
I'm loving the process. It's Wednesday, and she's able to walk and do a small little bounce shot on it. That's good. Loving what I'm seeing. Glad that she can walk on it, do a little bounce on it, keeping it real simple.
Sophie Cunningham shooting a full court shot or a half court shot, winning the contest. And for someone who shoots from as deep as Caitlin Clark does, she's really bad at shooting from half court. She seems absolutely fine.
Smooth.
Clark's reaction wasn't just excitement, it was relief. Because Caitlin understands how much smoother the game flows when Sophie is out there. She knows that Cunningham's toughness, energy, and experience are critical, especially in a high-stakes opener against a physical team like the Chicago Sky. But that relief was short-lived. Hours later, the team officially ruled Sophie out, and Clark was once again staring down a long road with limited support. Yes, Clark has superstar potential, but this isn't Iowa anymore. In the WNBA, every inch of the court is earned, and without reliable teammates to rotate and reset the pace, even the best players can get ground down by the sheer physicality of the league.
You have to protect your players. That should be priority number one, and priority number two should be the entertainment value of the game. The physicality of the game is not a selling point in the WNBA.
Which brings us to the emotional layer of this story. It's no secret that Caitlin Clark has already faced more pressure, criticism, and expectation than any rookie in recent memory. She's been targeted on the court, physically battered, and scrutinized from every angle. And just as the Fever begin their uphill battle this season, the one player who brought grit, fight, and backup support is suddenly unavailable. And let's not ignore how dangerous this could be for team morale. When players like Sophie are visibly ready, shooting lights out, bouncing at practice but still ruled out, it sends a weird message. Is the team being overprotective, or is there more to the injury than they're letting on?
Sophie made the half-court shot, and she said, "I told you guys I'm ready to play." Like, do you anticipate her playing tomorrow, or what's her status?
I mean, you take off 3 days of practice and then come and try to get the money at half-court shot. I think that's a little fraudulent. I don't know. I think that she's made great progress. I think the biggest thing is perspective, right? Like, we don't want to do anything that will set her back, that will hinder her progress. I think we have, 6 games in the first 14 days. So we'll be cautious. The last 48 hours have been really good. So the training staff will look at her in the morning, and then we'll make a decision from there.
The coaching staff insists it's a long-term decision, that they're being cautious for the good of the season. But from a player's perspective, especially for someone like Clark who thrives on momentum and confidence, it has to be frustrating. The uncertainty, the silence, the mixed messages, it all creates tension. Tension the Fever do not need right now, because the road ahead is tough. With multiple games in short stretches, the physical grind will only increase. Without Sophie Cunningham as that stabilizing force, Caitlin Clark is being asked to do it all. And while she might rise to the occasion, she shouldn't have to.
It is going to be an interesting one to see whether she plays or not. I would say maybe there's some obvious, kind of a hope that she plays.
This isn't just about one rolled ankle. This is about a team entering the most anticipated season in years with a missing piece they can't afford to lose. And behind the highlight reels and viral shots, Caitlin Clark knows that better than anyone. As much as Sophie Cunningham's injury has become a central storyline for the Indiana Fever, it's part of a much more troubling pattern that's quietly consuming the WNBA. The league is facing an alarming surge in injuries, even before the regular season began, and it's starting to feel less like bad luck and more like a systemic failure. And if you're Caitlin Clark, or any player in this league, there's reason to be deeply concerned. Let's put it into perspective. In just a short stretch of time, names like Kelsey Mitchell, Jordan Canada, Diamond DeShields, Damaris Dantas.
Diamond DeShields out with a right ankle injury, Anissa Morrow out with a right knee injury, and Amy Okongwu questionable with a left hip injury. We already heard that the Aces had a huge blow with Meg Gustafson going down with injury. Also, Georgia Amore was hurt before the preseason even started. She will be out for the season.
And even rookies like Georgia Amore have landed on injury reports. Some went down overseas, some in practice, and others during meaningless preseason games. These are not minor scratches. We're talking ankle sprains, torn ligaments, dislocated fingers, and full season exits. And all of it is happening before the season even really heats up. Now let's circle back to Sophie Cunningham. The Fever have played it off cautiously, listing her as day-to-day, praising her progress, highlighting how she's walking without a limp, shooting half-court shots, and staying active. On the surface, that sounds promising, but here's the catch. If everything is fine, why isn't she playing? Why are they going out of their way to downplay what could be a deeper issue? And if there is a risk of her worsening the injury, then why let her practice and publicly say she's ready to go? The answer might not lie within Sophie's ankle alone. It might lie in a league that's pushing its players to the edge, both physically and mentally.
They're probably in a rehabilitating, process. Hey, let's take it smooth. These few days, let's take it real easy. Let's just see you get some bounce shots. Like, just bounce on it a little bit.
Many WNBA athletes are forced to play year-round, jumping from overseas leagues back into the domestic season with little to no rest, all because of financial instability. Kelsey Mitchell, for example, dislocated her finger not while representing the Fever, but while playing in China during the off-season just to make ends meet. When she returned to Indiana, the damage was done. She admitted on camera, "Nobody helped me rehab. It just healed on its own." That's not just a red flag. That's an indictment of the entire system.
In broadcast, you dislocated your middle finger knuckle.
Yeah.
When did you do that?
China. Yeah.
What was that experience like, just coming back from that and doing that rehab?
I didn't do rehab. No one fixed it. No one helped me. I don't know what you want me to do, but I don't have any rehab for it. No one helped me out in China, so I just here.
So is it still dislocated?
Probably healing on its own now. It's just nothing I can really do about it.
This environment doesn't just leave players vulnerable to injury, it guarantees it. Training staffs are now stuck in an impossible position. If they bench players like Sophie, they're accused of being overcautious. If they play them too soon, they risk career-altering setbacks. And caught in the middle are athletes who would rather push through pain than miss an opportunity. Players like Sophie Cunningham, who thrive on passion, competitiveness, and grit. And that brings us back to Caitlin Clark. Caitlin is witnessing all of this unfold during her first year in the league. She came into the WNBA with unprecedented hype and a target on her back. She's already been elbowed, hit, and roughed up in games. She's heard the critics. She's dealt with the weight of carrying a franchise, and now she's watching her teammates, one by one, go down. She's watching medical staff err on the side of caution while knowing full well that the team needs these players now, not later.
A lot of these players who are playing in off-season leagues won't have to do that, and they can really focus on just taking care of themselves, getting rest, training, lifting, doing all of those little things, and getting ready for the WNBA season.
You can bet that Clark is asking the same questions fans are. What happens if she tweaks an ankle? Will she be benched for a week despite feeling ready? Is she going to be protected, or will she be thrown into 40-minute games every night because there's no one left to take the pressure off her? The WNBA desperately needs to reconcile two things: protecting its players and preserving its product. Because right now, the league is caught between encouraging physical play, toughness, they call it, and risking the health of its stars. If players like Sophie Cunningham are missing the season opener after seemingly recovering, and veterans like Kelsey Mitchell are playing through untreated injuries, then something is fundamentally broken. And that affects more than just stats and standings. It affects morale, momentum, and ultimately the growth of the league itself. Because fans want to see stars like Caitlin Clark perform at their best, not survive under pressure. They want Sophie Cunningham on the floor.
Sophie Cunningham has not really been practicing with the team. She's been showing up. She's been walking around, no boot, totally fine, not limping. But she did take part in today's practice, or at least today's half-court element of practice. So she is kind of like getting her workout on. Her defense is great. She can also spot up, and they're doing a motion offense. So they'll all be moving around from position to position.
Not watching from the bench in sneakers while pretending everything's fine. So what's next? Well, for the Fever, it's a waiting game. A few tough games to start the season will either expose the cracks or build resilience. The coaching staff will keep making safe calls, and Caitlin Clark will do what she always does: fight, lead, and carry the weight. But make no mistake, without Sophie Cunningham and others beside her, the mountain just got a lot steeper. And for the league, this should be a wake-up call. Because if things don't change soon, ankle injuries like Sophie's won't be the exception. They'll be the norm.
Sophie Cunningham is a big part of the Indiana Fever.
Sophie Cunningham's injury may have started as a simple rolled ankle, but what's unfolded since has exposed something far bigger, an uncomfortable truth about player health, league pressure, and just how much weight is being placed on Caitlin Clark's shoulders.
Did you learn in her rookie season that you can help support her and be there for her in this coming season?
Well, I think, there's a lot of room for improvement there, I think particularly in the officiating. I've kind of noticed a little bit of a difference. It looks like they're really officiating the game like it should be officiated, because I think if you make the game more fluid, people are going to like the product even more than it is right now.
Behind the highlight reels and the half-court celebrations, there's a real sense of urgency, a storm quietly building. And while Sophie insists she's ready and Caitlin puts on a brave face, the cracks are showing. If the Fever can't get healthy soon, the season could spiral fast, and fans know it. So let's send some love where it's needed most. If you're rooting for Caitlin Clark to rise through all this and lead the Fever to greatness, drop 100% in the comments to show her she's not alone. And while you're at it, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because this story, it's far from over. We'll be watching every step.